begun recording. I'll start.
Yes,
There it
it's done.
is. Thank you, Simon. All right, we'll convene the special meeting of the Municipal Accountability Review Board for January 27, 2025. We are obviously it's a Teams meeting, so please, MARB members and speakers, please speak clearly so that your comments will be recorded for the minutes. Mr. Alvarez, do you have opening remarks?
I do not.
All righty then, we'll get right into it. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 19, 2024 special meeting. A copy of the draft minutes were sent to MARB members via email. Any questions or comments about the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
David Biller,
Luciano, so moved.
I think Mr. Biller was first, Mr. Luciano was second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I abstain.
Mr.
Chairman,
Falsigno.
Yes,
Mr. Falsigno
abstain.
abstains.
I was not there.
Okay. We'll move then to the next item on the agenda, which is the City of West Haven. I think they are the only municipality with us today, if I'm not mistaken. First item is review, discussion, and possible action on proposed bond anticipation notes, issue of 2025 Series A. The city on February 15, 2024 issued $10.135 million of bond anticipation notes that mature on February 13, 2025. The city has since received approximately $5.2 million of grant funds that will be used to pay down a portion of the maturing bonds. The city is seeking approval to issue $5.025 million of new bond anticipation notes with a maturity date of March 27, 2025. Included in your meeting packet was a summary of the note sale. Our finance director for the city, Mr. Gormany, and or Mr. Lindsay from Munistat Services will be reviewing the issuance of those notes. Are they here? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yep, thank you, Mr. Secretary. As you mentioned, we are looking to renew to update those notes. As mentioned, and what I'll do is I'll ask Mr. Lindsay if he can just briefly go through the summary for you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank
Great.
you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. So good morning. This is Bill Lindsay from Munistat Services. We are the city's financial advisor for debt issuance. And, I had prepared a memo, which I think was included in the packet. The secretary did a very good job of summarizing it. Basically, the notes that are coming due on February 13th were issued as retainage notes for the city's high school project. The expectation is that those grants, as the grants are received and the post-project audit is completed, the notes will be retired from grant proceeds. So the city does not anticipate issuing long-term bonds that permanently finance these notes. To that end, the city has received about $5.2 million in grants recently and is looking to pay down the notes from basically $10 million to $5 million and then roll them over for a short period of time, at which they will be extended for a year in March. The original plan that was included in the 5-year recovery plan from back in May of 2024 was the city would be having a note and bond issue in the spring. Unfortunately, the audit isn't yet complete, as you're well aware. So we're looking to push these notes out 45 days, give the city an opportunity to complete the audit, as well as adopt the bond resolutions and then get those through this board. And then in mid-March, the city will issue both long-term bonds, in the amount of $12.45 million, which we can talk about in a second, and then roll over the balance of the notes for a year. And then they'll be on a 1-year cycle as they had been previously, just with a maturity date in late March rather than early February. There is a minor budgetary impact with the addition of this short extension for 45 days. So it wasn't originally contemplated when the city prepared the budget as well as the 5-year plan. So as outlined in my memo, there's $30,739 is the interest cost on the notes to extend it for 45 days. That would have to be an addition to the debt service line item in the budget. So that's the plan here. The city expects to be coming back to this board in its February meeting to discuss the long-term bond issue in March. But the city council, just to kind of give you the highlights of that, the city council tonight is adopting the bond resolution. The second reading is this evening. And so that will be included in that update to you at your February 27th meeting. On a positive note, that bond amount or that bond issuance was included in the 5-year plan from last May. So the good news is that the out years 26 through 29 in the 5-year plan, there is no impact. In fact, my estimates are now that the debt service will be marginally lower, roughly 250,000 in each of those years. The last 4 years of the plan, that is, just given the recent upgrades to the city's bond rating from Standard & Poor's. And I'll stop there and see if there are any questions from the MARB.
Questions from the board for the city? Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Bill, I was a little surprised to see your debt service projection going out into the future. Reason being that I was sort of expecting that with interest rates now looking to be higher for longer out into the future, that there might be some rethinking about what the city's interest costs are going to be over the next number of years as new debt is issued. So can you talk a little bit about your thinking on that and whether or not, sort of what numbers are you using for your projections going forward for interest rates? And, why do you think those are good numbers, basically?
Sure. That's a loaded question. Unfortunately, we've seen a fair amount of volatility recently with rates. Especially given the new administration and the concerns over tariffs and whether or not how inflationary those are. To be honest with you, Tom, we revised the rates, but I haven't revised them materially higher because that's all speculative at this point. They haven't really set forth any policy. So it's hard. The market's bouncing around, and it didn't seem prudent for me to include those now without all the information being available. So we did revise them based on current rates as they are now. And as I guess I should point out that the long end of the curve has gone up, but the short end of the curve has come down. It's steepened. So there's a little bit of a balancing act in there as well. As we move forward and things become firmer, as terms of what the actual direction of rates are, we can revise them. Obviously, the city will be preparing a new 5-year plan in the springtime here in connection with the budget adoption process. So we'll revisit those now, but my estimates were based on the market as of a few weeks ago. And if you bear with me here, I have to open up a file to tell you. If you want to know what the actual rates were, I can open up and tell you what those were. Suffice it to say, they're still fairly conservative, I believe.
So I guess you haven't assumed a reduction in rates going out into the future. Is that fair to say that basically you're assuming rates are where they are currently and that's where they'll remain?
That's right. Yes. What I did was obviously I adjusted the city's the effect of the S&P upgrades on the city's current rating, but I used the current market rate. Yes. So I haven't really projected it either upward or downward. It's based on current rates as they stand now.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Appreciate it.
Other questions? Kim, I understand this is an action the board has to approve.
Yes, sir.
Hamilton has his hand up again.
Yeah, I also have a question for Mr. Varmany. In terms of the 45-day window, are you confident that the city's audit will be completed in time to do that next financing in 45 days?
I can help answer that. I know, Michael, you're on mute. I don't know if you know. So we had our audit was anticipated to be due January 30th. In working with the auditors over the weekend, they do want another week or two. I think because of Matt's absence in Board of Ed, it kind of just, took there was some time we needed to take to round up some information, plus we were waiting on Milliman, which they have provided that information to the auditor. So we're going to ask for an extension, but it's just going to be for a week or two beyond January 30th. We're getting our single audit this week draft, and we're also getting the financials, I believe, on next Monday. And then we will have the opportunity to respond to that draft. We want to include our comments in that as well. So to your question is, will we have the audit final? Yes, within 45 days. That is the anticipation.
Great, thank you.
Other questions to the board concerning the bond anticipation note change action required? I'll entertain a motion then to approve the proposed action.
I make a motion.
Mr. Falsigno moves.
Sal Luciano, second.
Sal Luciano seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the update of the issuance of general obligation bonds and notes in late March 2025. City's planning, we've had partial discussion of this to date. No MARB approval is currently needed. Do we have additional overview of the bond and bands issuances scheduled for March 2025?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So the bond issuance that will be happening in March will be funding our fiscal year 2024 capital projects. And generally, the city has bonded primarily a year behind on capital. So we're looking at going out to market for the 2024 year, which was approved by the city council already as part of their budgetary approval. So we're looking at borrowing $12.4 million, approximately $12.5 million as outlined in Mr. Lindsay's memo.
Other questions of the board regarding the bond sale in March? Okay. No MARB approval is needed, so we can move then to the mayor's executive summary.
I don't really have an elaborate executive summary because I know this was a special meeting, and we just had a meeting in December. So really my executive summary was the update on the audit. We did hire a human resources commissioner this past week and also a health director. So those were two vacancies that we were having challenges recruit for, and we got two very qualified, experienced folks that are going to be filling in those positions. So very happy to have them on board.
Great. Questions of the mayor from the board? I think the next item on the agenda would, yes.
I have one,
Ms.
Secretary.
Kennison.
Mayor, could you please, or Michael, let us know, has the auditors been informed of the February meeting, and will they be able to be present at that meeting to present the financials?
The auditors have been informed of the subcommittee meeting in February. The
Not the
audit
sub,
would-
the full MARB.
Oh, the full MARB. Oh, I told them about the subcommittee meeting. I actually forgot this weekend to talk to them about the full MARB meeting, but I think we'll be in a good position, but I will double check with them. Again, we're getting a single audit this week, the financials next week. We'll have our drafts. If it's in draft form, we'll have their portion and then we'll have our responses. If by any chance it's still in draft form, maybe we go into executive summary until the auditors come back and finalize it. But we have talked to them about what they're seeing as far as clearing material weaknesses, et cetera, because I want to, anticipate what we will be receiving by way of a report.
Okay, thank you.
Questions from the board on any of that? Next item on the agenda, I think we've covered the update on the status of the FY24 audit. Anything to add there? Think we've fleshed that out. Looking forward to seeing that in a couple of weeks. I know and we'll get to, I think at the end, a little discussion about the subcommittee, so I won't get ahead of myself. We have, I think it's 3 non-labor contracts for approval today. You got information in your packets about all of those contracts. We took our contracts as one motion last time and seemed to get away with that. I'm happy to do that again, unless members have a different idea. Questions about any of the contracts?
I have one about the ADP contract.
Ms. Kennison.
Regarding the ADP contract, I'm glad that the RFP is done and that ADP has been selected. My only question is have you involved Protiviti with this, only because I know that they were heavily involved with the issues with the current ADP, and I just would want to make sure that included in the contract, the city is covered, that those items that this ADP could not provide in the past within the software, which caused a lot of challenges with the reporting, that those items will be addressed.
Thank you, Kim. So as part of the RFP process that we did, as mentioned in the memo, we had 4 folks respond. We actually interviewed 3 out of those 4 folks, and as we submitted to you ADP, we felt staying with ADP was the best. Our payroll manager is actually spearheading this project. So as part of what we've been talking to ADP about is how the last implementation was done. We want to do it completely different, which means going through a process that ADP calls of optimization, which is looking at all the information in ADP, how it was set up prior, how we can fix it now, looking at the employee information, and working with both the city and the Board of Education on reporting as well. So as we go through this process with ADP, that is part of the discussions and part of the implementation that our payroll manager is spearheading. And she's also in conversations. The Board of Education hired a new finance director 2 weeks ago. She started, so we're getting her caught up to speed as well on the ADP process as well. But the optimization was something that we discussed with ADP, as we were interviewing. If we stay with ADP, we want to scrub through our data and the board.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, I also had a question on ADP, and I certainly support the continuation of the contract. But I noticed that you have the contract covers not only the payroll function, but also seems to be the full HR suite and a time and attendance system, electronic time and attendance system. And I just want to confirm that those are actually up and running. If they are, that's terrific, that you have sort of the full suite from beginning to end. But I just want to understand whether or not that's currently up and running, or whether that's planned as part of a new implementation after the new contract's in effect.
I'm sorry, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? We actually got kicked off of the meeting. So if you can just repeat that last question, and I'm not sure if you heard most of our answer here.
We heard none of it. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't hear any answer, but basically what I'm asking about is the sort of the upfront time and attendance system, which you seem to be buying a electronic time and attendance system through ADP, as well as an HR system and the payroll system. And so I just wanted sort of a better understanding of, are all three of those systems currently up and operating? If so, I think that's great. But I wasn't aware that you had the time and attendance system, and I wasn't sure if you had actually previously gotten the HR system up, or whether those are kind of new initiatives.
I could help answer that, Michael. You're on mute again. But as far as the time and attendance, we are running all the if this answers your question, Tom, we're running all of our reports ad hoc. Give me a report of overtime in this department. Can you tell me what's going on, overall with comp time, things like that. Those are all manual reports we're running. So we're running them, but we want that enhancement where we can, have those automatic reports, and we could do a little bit more so that we can help manage time and attendance a little better. And as far as the HRIS system, no, it is not currently up and running. We have everything queued up and ready to go. And thanks to actually Protiviti helped us to do that, but we need that enhancement as well so that that is managed in the ADP system. If that helps answer your question.
Yeah, that does. And I guess my only sort of advice on this would be, these are big systems to get up and running. So make sure you've got the resources that you need, both contracted resources, whether from ADP or other folks, as well as the internal resources, so that you've freed up people's time, because getting both of those systems or all of those systems up and running properly is it's a big undertaking, but certainly worth doing. And I applaud you for moving forward on that.
Thank you. Our payroll manager is setting up a weekly meeting to kick off so that every week we have a certain team that's, tracking. But I think your point is well taken. I have to think about some additional resources because it is an undertaking, and I think we need a little support, and I got to figure out how to do that. I will.
Mayor, I can give you my feedback as far as putting payroll systems in at a university very large, is that while ADP has their own project lead, it's better if the city has their own project lead to make sure that both sides, there's a bridge between the two. And that is really what helped us manage the time over both, so that, let's say HR is busy and payroll isn't, but as they start to plan the time of what needs to get done, it actually takes the burden off of your payroll person, because then you'll have somebody else that works for the city, a project manager, to run and keep everybody above board. And they also will help with testing, making sure that when you're in a beta site, that testing is done well.
Hi, Kim. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can, Michael.
I'm sorry, our internet dropped and we were trying to get back into the meeting. But what I was saying before we dropped was, yeah, we went through the entire cycle through the RFP process as mentioned. Our payroll manager, Aaron, is leading the project, but we thought that staying with ADP was the best option. Now, what we did was we actually worked with ADP as negotiating the contract, and doing a service called optimization, which means that they look at all our data, the setup, everything on both the city and the Board of Education side. That is part of our contract and part of this process. So we will have a team that's dedicated to the city of West Haven to work with our payroll manager on this project. They'll be looking at both our benefits, our payroll data, our setup, fixing fixing reporting and things like that. We actually brought in the new finance director who started a couple of weeks ago with the Board of Education, who replaced Matt Cavallaro. We're bringing her up to speed on the project as well. But we did make sure that as part of this RFP process, we did get these services with ADP because we did realize that, we needed to fix some of our benefits and payroll information in the system.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it, but I do agree with Kim's notion that having somebody who's really a project manager on a project of this magnitude working for the city makes good sense because, a person who's got to get out the weekly payroll and the biweekly payroll, that ends up becoming, a big undertaking for them and they can't stop doing that. And so even though your payroll manager certainly has to be involved in this implementation, to throw this kind of implementation on top of all of their other regular duties may just be too much. And so you really need to somehow identify someone or hire someone temporarily or something who can really be the project manager, or maybe you have enough bandwidth somewhere in the organization to find somebody to do that. But it is a big undertaking, and you want to get it right. So anyway, I've probably said enough. Thank you.
Mr. Luciano.
So based on past experience with the DMV, testing is important when you're rolling a system like this out. And my advice would be also to continue the ad hoc way you've been doing it. So you have a belts and suspenders situations for at least 2 weeks, if not a month.
Okay. Other questions or comments on the non-labor contracts? Just for the record, I'll go ahead and just note that we are voting on the Automatic Data Processing, Inc. Payroll and Benefit Services to the City and the Board of Ed. We're voting on Elm City Materials, Inc. Paving Services for sidewalk, driveway, curb, and road repairs. And the final contract is with Frontier Communications for internet and fiber upgrades for the police department. If there are no further questions or comments about the non-labor contracts, I'll entertain a motion.
Luciano, so moved.
Moved by Mr. Luciano.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Alvarez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Contracts are approved. Last item on our agenda is the West Haven Subcommittee meeting in February. We've alluded to that. Kim, when is that scheduled? Kim Kinnison? When is the subcommittee
Sorry,
meeting?
I
okay.
wasn't off of mute as of yet. I don't know if it's fully confirmed at this point that we've gotten a full response from everybody. This
Okay.
did go out last week. And hold on, I apologize.
Well, subcommittee members will have been polled as to a subcommittee meeting date sometime in early February so that we can have the benefit of their wisdom in time for our full meeting in February. This is a big, important subcommittee meeting because they're going to have recommendations for what are the criteria for release for the city from our oversight, or recommendations to us about how we proceed. And the full board will discuss this at the full meeting in February, what the criteria are and where we are. So
the tentative
hopefully,
date right now is for February 13th.
Okay, that's a Thursday, I think.
Yes.
All right. Any other business that anyone wants to talk about? It's a special meeting. We can't really do that. So
If I remember, that was going to be on Teams, or was it in person, Kim? I saw the notice. I was just looking at my schedule.
We were going to do that on Teams.
Teams, okay.
Okay. Very good then. Next item. So our regular meeting is February 27th at the LOB in person, hopefully. And Let's please try to make sure we have a quorum for the 27th of February for what will hopefully be an important meeting discussing the way forward with the city. Any other questions? If not, I can entertain a mayor.
Oh, yes. I would just ask that before the February 13th subcommittee meeting, if you can circulate to the subcommittee meeting members and myself as well, that list that was shared, so we have an opportunity to digest it and review it and be able to provide some good input by February 13th.
We'll do. Our plan is to get it out by the end of, I believe it was end of this week, correct? We still have some follow-up with our legal before we can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sal Luciano, motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Mr. Alvarez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Good to see you all. We'll see you in a month or so.
Thank you.
Take care.
Aye.